Okay. Today we are going to hear from Michelle vocally. We hear from her every week, but we're going to hear her share a testimony of kind of God in her life, and obviously as she shares and as we talk about some of these things, many of us will remember living through this a year and a half ago, but we lived through it on this side and not on that side. So Michelle, if you want to come, and I'm going to pray for you, and then you're just going to hit the down arrow, right?
Yes.
All right. We'll go back there in case there's a problem.
Yep.
Father, thank you for Michelle, Father, for her many gifts. And we've heard in a testimony from her a few years ago about how you just you worked through your spirit, Father, just that the music would be such a part of the gift that you have given her, and that she would share with so many. And today, as she shares just a situation again from her life, Father, and sees your faithfulness in it, Lord, use her in a mighty way that you would be glorified. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well, you think the second time around doing this, it would be easier, and I won't be as nervous. It's not true. It's not true. When Norris Ham came to share that we all have a testimony, and that God gives us a testimony in order that we may share it, to defeat Satan. That was after the clipboard had gone around a couple times and everything, and I thought, oh, that's cool. That's good that we're doing that again. And I mean, I won't do it this time because I already did it. And number one, I don't want to do it again because it's scary. And number two, I already did it, so I'll let other people do it. It's good. And then when he said that, and then Brian came up and shared after that too, just that how powerful it is that we all have a testimony and we are meant to share that with others. I thought, okay. So I thought I'll share Keith's story. So I'm going to share with you Keith's story, and then I'm going to share also too what I believe that God's story was in the midst of all that too. And but usually whenever I have to do this kind of thing, when I get to do this kind of thing, speaking in front of people, I either have a moment either the night before or the day of, where just in my spirit I throw a little hissy fit. Like, I don't want to do this. Do I really have to do this? I don't want to. I really don't. I don't want to share my testimony. I don't want to do it. Do I have to share my testimony? I shouldn't share my testimony. Did you hear me yell at my kids again? Like, I should not be up here, And so it was last night, and I said to God, do I really have to share my testimony? I really don't want to. And he was like, Michelle. And he laughed. He let me finish because, he's God. And he laughed. He chuckled because he loves me. And he just said, Michelle, it's not about you. It's about me. So it's going to be okay. I said, okay. So, like I said, I'm going to share Keith's story, and I'm just going to share, I think, what God really did through that in me, and I think in a lot of other people too. So, here we go. Once upon a time, there was a baby Keith. I pressed down. He told me to press down. I pressed down. Oh, I'm not doing anything. Can you back it up just once? Thank you. Once upon a time, there was a baby Keith. He's so cute. Look how tiny. He was born on May 29th, 2020 in Bad Axe, and this was in the middle of the thick of COVID. So we went to the hospital, and once Justin came in, he couldn't leave because he couldn't come back again. No one could come and see us, which we discovered was actually kind of nice. We had a whole day of quiet to ourselves just to snuggle. And we took naps, and it was great. And we were so happy, so in love, and our fourth baby, and we're like, yes, this is great. He was just perfect. And I'm pressing down. Do I need to point it somewhere? Yeah. He looked so angry. I think he came out with a furrowed brow. But he's just the cutest, And we were together as a family, and everything was great. And the kids we were just so in love. He just was so great. And just so happy. That was after he peed all over Selah. And we wrapped him in a blanket. Yeah. So everything was really good. And I think he was the smallest of my babies. Bridget was 9 pounds, 3 ounces. She was a large baby. He was like 7 pounds something, so he was small. And I just thought, oh, he's a small baby. I've never really had one of those before, so this must be what it's like. But as time went on, oh, there he is again. Oh, we called him Plinky Plinky Bright Eyes because he had such bright eyes. But as time went on, he just got a little skinny. You know, you could see in his shoulders, his arms, and his belly just seemed kind of bloated. So we were a little concerned, or just like we thought, well, maybe he's just skinny. I don't know. But then we also noticed that he had some dry diapers, and you know, he woke up after the night, and his diaper wasn't like full like normally, and he stopped having like poopy diapers, and so we thought, okay. He also started like throwing up a lot more. I mean, babies spit up, you know, but this was like a lot. He would wake up with like a spot on his sheet like this big. So he was throwing up a lot, and so we were like, you know, maybe we should bring him in to check for dehydration. So considering his symptoms and some of my past medical history, we brought him to the hospital. There he is, so snuggly. He's so cute. So we tried to take him to the Pigeon ER on June 14th. It was a Sunday. He was just over 2 weeks old. And when we got there, we found that there had been a really bad accident. And so everyone there was very busy with that. And so the staff there said that you might want to go somewhere else. It's going to be a long wait. And so selfishly, we were a little upset. Like, we're trying to get our baby seen. We can't, you know. But we thought, okay, let's go to Bad Axe. So we went to Bad Axe. Delay number 1. So we went to Bad Axe, and the doctor there, we were seen, and the doctor there, you know, took his temperature and all the things that doctors do. And he said, okay, I see no signs of dehydration. I think he's fine. So just do a follow-up with your doctor on Monday, and I think, you know, we're good to go. And so Justin and I thought, oh, that's great. Okay, well, okay. So we'll do a follow-up and just see what happens. So delay number 2. So we went to do the follow-up appointment on Monday morning, and I explained some of his symptoms to our doctor, Dr. Carey, and some of my past medical history, because I had something called pyloric stenosis when I was a baby. And that is when your opening between your stomach and your small intestine, it's called your pylorus. And it's when it gets abnormally thin, and it almost closes. And so that opening between your stomach and your intestines is completely closed. So that's why the dry diapers, no poop, also all the spit up, because once, you know, stuff goes in the stomach, it has to go somewhere, so it goes out. So I shared that I had that as a baby, and I kind of wondered if maybe that could have been part of what was going on. So considering all that, Dr. Carey said, okay, we'll do an ultrasound and we'll check for that, but I think I'm going to send you to Saginaw, just because if there are other tests that they need to do, then they can do it there. So, okay, so we load up in the ambulance and we go to Saginaw, and like all this time I'm thinking, is this real life? Like, is this really happening? Like, I mean, for me, it's like, oh, I went through it. It's okay. I'm alive today. Like, I'm sure it'll be fine. But it's just kind of bizarre to do that, and it just felt very surreal. It was very strange. So we went to the hospital. We went to Saginaw, and they did a ultrasound. It was kind of inconclusive, so they did an upper GI scan. And if you've never done that before or seen that done, they like have to strap you on this bed thing, because they do the barium, they drink this barium stuff, and then they have to like turn you. And so for a little baby, I mean, he's 2 weeks old, and he's crying because he wants me, and he's always had this thing about wanting to hold hands. And so when he was such a tiny baby, I'm trying to change his diaper, he's screaming his head off, I just get my finger up there, and he could hold my hand, and it would like calm him down. So this whole time that they're strapping him onto this thing, and then he has to have his arms up so he can do the scan. So they're strapping his arms to this thing, and his little hands are doing this. And I'm like, I want to get there just to put my fingers there, because then he'll be fine. And he's throwing up and choking. It was awful. So I finally got over there, and they did the scan, and we're all watching the TV, you know, because they drink the barium that it's supposed to go through. We'll just sat there. So it was very clear that the opening was closed, and So they said, okay, yep, it's pyloric stenosis. We'll do the surgery. So they did the surgery on Wednesday. Doesn't matter. They did the surgery. It was successful. It was great. We went home on Wednesday. So I was like, okay, finally, we're done. Okay. So we get home on Wednesday, and Dr. Williams, the surgeon there, gave me a cell phone number because the incision is like this big. It's not even an inch big. It's very small. So they did I don't think they did stitches, but they did something to close it, and then they put a Steri-Strip over top. And he said, if you see any like leakage or anything like that, it could be a sign of infection. I'll probably have you take off the Steri-Strip, snap a picture, and send it to me so I can see what it looks like. So I said, okay. So we were watching for that. So then Thursday, I noticed that there was like a couple drops. So I called him, and he said, okay, that's fine. Just keep an eye on it. I don't think you need to take it off quite yet. Okay. So on Friday, I forgot a picture. That's us the first time. So I think that was after the surgery that we were getting ready to go. So, yeah. So then that you can see how skinny he was. He was so skinny. You can see his little bones and stuff. But yeah, so on Friday, we went to, I just thought, we've been at the hospital. It's been crazy. Let's go to the beach. So we went to the Ellenbaum Beach, which is our favorite beach to go to. And John and Rhonda were not there, but Angela was there with the boys. And so it was just a fun day of just playing with the kids, and it was great and whatever. And on the way there, Keith had fallen asleep in his car seat. And so it was about the time for him to be, fed and everything. And I went inside to get him. And I think either that point I had to get him up so he was crying, or he was crying already. I don't remember. But I got him out of his car seat, and I noticed a really big splotch on his sleeper, like maybe this big, of just leakage from his thing. So I called Dr. Williams, and he said, yeah, just take off the Steri-Strip and stamp me a picture, and then we'll see about what we need to do. I said, okay. So I brought him over to the window, so I'd have better lighting. And I get the Steri-Strip off, and there's something coming out. And it was like a little thing, maybe this high. It was like this pinky red thing coming out. And I quick snapped a picture, tried to cover it with the Steri-Strip, put the pajamas back on, and I sent it to Dr. Williams, and I get a call right away. Go to the ER right now. And so I moved him over here to, do something. And I opened up the pajamas again, and his intestine was coming out of the opening. It had opened up, and it was coming out. It was like a Play-Doh dispenser. And he's crying because he's hungry, and so it's coming out more. And so, my adrenaline goes like, And my mom was there too, helping, because she always stayed to help with the kids. So she was there. And so we wrapped him in like a towel and put him in the car seat, just like strapped him in lightly. And we were like going to go to the ER. And then I remembered, I have other children that are there. So I remember very vividly turning to Angela and be like, Angela, can you? And she's like, yes, just go. So she was wonderful too. So my mom and I, we called ahead to the ER, and so they knew we were coming. They got us in right away. And my mom parked the van, and so I'm bringing him in, and I get him out and lay him on the bed, and I just lost it because I thought he was going to die right there. But the staff there was wonderful, and they just said, it's okay. We're going to treat him like a baby who's born like this. And we're going to get you to Saginaw. They're going to open him up, put it back in, and it's going to be fine. Okay. So what they did was that they put like saline on it because it has a higher risk of dehydration, all that, the inside stuff being out. So they put a lot of saline on it, put some gauze over it, put more saline, and then they went to the kitchen and got Press-N-Seal, and Press-N-Sealed him. So if you're looking for kitchen storage needs, doctors recommend Press-N-Seal. So they legit Press-N-Sealed him all together. So that's us at the Pigeon ER. That's Dr. Carey. She's fantastic. Yeah, I don't know if you can really, no, you can't really see anything. That's probably better. But yeah, so they got them all they tried to get an IV, but his veins were so tiny they couldn't do it. So they got him all fixed up with the thing, and he's in the thing with the holes on the outside. And like I said, he always wants to hold hands. He had both his arms out the holes, like the Hulk trying to, like, you know, he was a feisty little bugger. And so we took a helicopter ride to Saginaw, which actually was kind of cool. But so we took a helicopter ride to Saginaw, and they called ahead. They knew we were coming, so we went right up to surgery, and they did the surgery. And then Dr. Williams came to talk to me about it afterwards. And just another note too. Remember, this is all COVID protocol, so Justin wasn't with me. I was all alone, and Justin was all alone too. So we had our separate things, you know. And Dr. Williams sat down with me, and he just said, when we opened him up to do the surgery, we found that his intestines were malrotated, which means they were flipped completely backwards. And which I didn't realize, but it's a very dangerous thing, because if they get pinched at all, it can be life-threatening. And so he said when the wound opened and the intestines started coming out, it got twisted and pinched. And he said half of his bowel was compromised. And he said when they did take everything out to put it back in, he said it started to turn pink again, but he said that he was really, really sick, really sick. And I remember asking him, do kids die from this? And he said yes. And yeah, so okay, so I remember, so they took Keith down to the pediatric ICU, like they had a couple rooms. It wasn't the NICU, but it was like the ICU rooms or whatever. And so they took him down, and so I walked by myself from the waiting room to his room. And the same thing with when he went in for pylorexinosis, like, is this really happening? How could this be happening again? And I remember walking that hall just by myself. And it was very, very strange. So I get to his room, and there's doctors and nurses everywhere, just everywhere, hooking him up, getting him all like tubes and everything. And they were wonderful. I was wondering, oh, that's us going to the helicopter. And so they were, I don't know if this was, I think I might have missed one. But yeah, so they were hooking him up and everything, and I think that must have been later. Doesn't matter. Anyways, that was one of his pictures in the hospital, but there was just a ton of doctors, a ton of nurses, and I remember one of the doctors had some students with them. And like Keith is, he's intubated, he is sedated. Justin, oh, that was another thing, is that Dr. Williams said that when they do this surgery, they just look, they watch his blood numbers, all the other numbers, I don't know what numbers he was talking about, but we're gonna watch his numbers, and unless he presents miraculous numbers, we'll go in again and just take a look at the bowel and see how it looks on Sunday. I was like, okay. So, so they kept him intubated just in case they had to do surgery again. And so he's just on the table, on the bed, whatever, and one of the doctors with his students came up and he was, teaching them, just explaining all that was going on. And he came up and started like pulling on the skin in his inner thighs. And, for like a baby, it's supposed to be chunk. Like, babies are supposed to be chunky. And he was so skinny. And he said, I heard him say to his students, like, see the skin here? That's a sign of a very malnourished baby. And I remember in that moment just being so devastated, like, how could I let this happen? How could I let this happen to my baby? Like, what's wrong with me? I'm his mother. I should have brought him in sooner. I should have known. I should have. And I remember asking him, I just kept asking him, is he going to be okay? Is he going to be okay? And he couldn't give me a definitive answer. And so I just knew, like, I had to be ready for the possibility of not taking my baby home. Oh. So that was Friday night, and they let Justin come up, and be with us. The head nurse was so gracious. So she let him come up and we could be together and just be together and pray, and he could be with Keith, and that was good. And then he said, Dr. Williams said that first 24 hours after surgery is just really, really important. And so we just sent out the call to pray, and put on Facebook, we messaged you guys, we messaged other friends and family, and I know that there were hundreds, I would say probably thousands of people all over the world praying for him. And in that same idea, there are hundreds and thousands of people all over the world turning their hearts towards God and trusting him for this situation. So I think, what's next? Oh yeah, so on Friday, we always snap weekly pictures of the kids, of the babies. And so this is his 3-week picture. Yeah. So here's our baby. Yeah, holding hands. And his veins kept collapsing because he was so malnourished. And so they ended up putting one in his head. And the nurses said that that's usually their last resort, but that's like the best place to have it. I said, I don't care, do it. They're like, you're making it slightly unnerving for the parents. I'm like, I don't care. So, yeah, and I remember oh baby. One of the places I went when we were waiting is they had a chapel, and this was the cross in the chapel. And on Saturday I went there, and through all of this, Justin and I, we really wanted to see God even how to pray about this, because I remember going to the chapel and just sitting and being like, God, I don't even know how to pray, because obviously I want him to be healed. I want him to stay here, but how could I even dare ask for that if I know so many other babies aren't healed? It's not fair. It doesn't seem right. Like, how could I even pray for that? And so Justin and I always just prayed for God's presence, because we knew that was the one thing we truly needed. That's so interesting, Ken, that you shared that today. That was the one thing we knew the only thing we truly, truly needed was his presence. Because if things went the way we wanted it to, we prayed for, we asked for, like, he would be the one who gets all the glory. And if it didn't go the way we wanted to, he would be the only one who could help us through that. He was the only one who could carry Keith through this, and he would be the only one to carry us through if it didn't go the way we truly wanted it to. And so I remember just asking God if he could stay. Please, Lord, can he stay? So on Saturday night late, on Saturday night late, sorry, my days mixed up. So on Saturday night late, had been 24 hours. And so Dr. Williams came in and said, he was talking with the nurses a little bit and everything. And he said, I feel, just looking at everything, I feel very comfortable not going in for a second look. And remember, he said miraculous numbers. And in my spirit, I was like, yay, but can you just check? Can we just do it anyways, please? Like, I don't want to do this again. But I trusted him. He's a wonderful surgeon. Everyone was wonderful. And so, yeah, he was able to say with confidence that they didn't need to go back and look because everything was barely progressing. So on Sunday, the head nurse again let Justin come in because it was Father's Day. So he came up to see his baby, and that was wonderful too. And so just slowly and gradually, he got tubes taken out, and he got IVs taken out, and he also, another thing I didn't expect was he got really swollen from being, because they kept giving him fluids, and he got really swollen just from like laying there. That was kind of weird too. So he's all puffy right there. Yeah. So, like I said, just gradually getting tubes out and gradually progressing, and that was one day they let him, I came down and they let him go up, and so he was with him for a couple hours too, so that was wonderful. Yeah. So then we did some Pedialyte first, and then we gave him a bottle of some of my milk, and then we were able to nurse him again. And that was his setup. And that's where I slept very uncomfortably for several nights. Uh-oh. Thank you. So that was our last day. Keith is not happy. But if you see up on the board, it says, "My goal for the day, go home." So that was a great day. So that was our third and final time leaving the hospital. And just from then, he just gradually just kept getting better and gaining weight. And yeah, so he's just a cutie. That was like the day after his first birthday. And then you can see his little scar above his belly button. And he also has, the last tube he got out was they left in a port for an IV in his leg that had gone to like one of his arteries, just in case they had to do surgery again or whatever. But after, I think it was his 6-week appointment, everything looked fine, and that was the last thing they took out. So he still has a little scar on his leg too. Yeah. So, and then this was just the other day. That's his cheese face. He's cheesing for you. So that Thursday we came home again, and we're just very, very thankful. So that's Keith's story, and now I want to tell a little bit about what I think God's story was in all of this. So, I grew up in the church, and I always know these things in my mind, but it's not until you actually have to trust him for them until they really get here. And I can look back on this time and say, yeah, these 3 things, like, God is so faithful. And it's not just because we got to take Keith home, but I could see God in the whole process, that his presence is perfect, his timing is perfect, and his will is perfect. I'm going to share a few verses that were really important. James 4:8, come near to God, or draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. John 15:5, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. In Ephesians 2:14, the first part of it, for he himself is our peace. And Isaiah 26:3, you will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. And like I said, his presence was the only thing that was, well, not the only thing, but the most important thing that we prayed for, that we asked God for, because we knew that was the only thing that we really needed, and that was the biggest thing we needed through all of it. We couldn't do any of it without him. And, yeah. And then that God's timing is perfect. So Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Psalm 27:14, wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. So, I didn't want to do that one yet. It's okay. It's still a good verse. So like I said, we went to Pigeon first, and we were not able to be seen. We could have been seen in Pigeon, but it would have been a several-hour wait. So that was our first delay, like I said. And then when we got to, and we could have been really upset that, Pigeon, And then we went to Bad Axe, and the ER doctor there said, oh, no, he's fine. And truly in my heart, I was like, what's the deal? Come on. Like, why didn't you send us right away? Like, what were you thinking, to the doctor there in Bad Axe? But it was like we discovered after all of this that, God, I really feel like God was saying, not yet. Just a little bit longer for Keith to be seen. Just a little bit longer. It won't make sense, and it will seem harder, but just a little bit longer. Trust me. Just a little longer. Because his wound, because it was tiny, and those things they don't open up. The only reason why they opened up is because he was so malnourished. And so all that guilt that I had about, why didn't I take him in sooner? God was using that too. And had the wound not opened, they wouldn't have found the normal rotation. And had they not found the normal rotation, you just never know. Because it's such a fast thing. If something happens, it's within hours. And I don't know what would have happened if we hadn't found that. So I could be so upset about these things that, like, oh, I should take him in earlier. Oh, we can't get seen in Pigeon. Oh, the doctor in Bad X. But God used every single thing, and I would venture almost to say that God put those, like, maybe God put that ER doc there on that shift on that day, so we would wait even just 12 more hours. I mean, I don't understand it, but God showed me that I got this. Like, it's okay. I've got this timing, and this, it all works. I'm orchestrating this thing. I'm in charge. God's will is perfect. Isaiah 55, 8-9. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. And just like I said, when I was praying for Keith, how could I pray for this when I know people who have lost their babies? It's not fair. I don't understand that. That's something I wrestle with all the time. Why does God heal some and not others? And just that idea that I had to accept the fact that I might go home without a baby and that he might not be healed because God doesn't heal everybody. And I don't know. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. But I had to trust that he is still good. And he's still in charge. He's on his throne. He loves me, and he's still good. Even when I don't understand. And another thing, too, is through all of this, like I said, he brought people to himself through prayer. And Justin shared with me, I didn't know this, but one of Kent's coworkers came up to him, right, and said, and one of your coworkers apparently came up to you and, oh, this person that has this baby in the hospital, I don't know, Justin said that you shared that with him one time, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. But, and that we knew that people were praying for him that we didn't even know. And also people that, like family members or friends who we didn't even know believed in God, texted us and said, hey, we're praying for Keith. You know, God drew so many people to himself through Keith and the situation. And so in this whole thing, there was so much uncertainty and so much we didn't know, and it was never something that we wanted to go through or whatever. And like I said, it was just like, is this real? Like, how could this be real? But through it all, I learned, and I learned in my heart that God's presence is perfect, and his timing is perfect, and his will is perfect, and through it all, he is good. Lord God, I just pray for the rest of the day today. I just thank you for our testimonies and for you working in our lives. And I just pray that you would just continue to work in our hearts and mold us and make us more like you, and that you would continue to use the situations around us and bring things on our path that would just draw our hearts back to you. We praise you and we thank you. Amen.
Thank you, Michelle. And, you know, I don't want to add on to what she said, but one of the things, sometimes things don't make sense. You know, when we were setting all of these up and we kind of knew what was what, and I let Justin kind of pick the order, and obviously just 2 weeks ago he heard from Josana and what they lived through. And, you know, the conclusion was the same. Lord, we don't understand all these things, but we're going to trust that you are good. And we're all going to go through a lot of things in life that we're not going to understand. Some of them very painful. But we see very unclearly right now, as it tells us in Corinthians. He sees a bigger picture. And we've got to trust that bigger picture, even when it's painful, even when it's difficult. And one of the things I know about both situations is that, yeah, people were maybe for the first time in their lives, in some cases, stopping to pray, stopping to acknowledge a God greater than themselves. And that's everything. That's everything. And one day, when we get there, and we'll think all of these things are important, and we'll realize, thank you, God, for letting me be part of a bigger picture. We'll never get answers all the way. But you know what? After a while, when we get there, those answers won't matter anymore. And I'm grateful to both of these ladies to share. And we go on together. And we support each other in the middle of that, because that's how God intended it. So